Welcome to another episode of the Elite Agent Masterclass. Today, myself and Mr. Jack Durkin are joined by none other than Ben Romeo Dunn. That's the nickname he has acquired when he partnered with us here at the Avenue Estate Agents. We wanted to bring Ben on today. Ben's been on an amazing journey from being in the world of employed estate agency for, I think if I remember rightly, about 10 years. He then decided to explore the self-employed route and partnered with us earlier this year. Really great journey, really great story. And one of the main, I think, takeaways that people that are listening in that are maybe outside of that self-employed world will take from this is some of the risks you took that were calculated, and some of the things that you've done differently despite having a decade of experience. So, Ben Dunn, welcome to the pod. How are you, mate?
Yeah, well, good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's exciting having listened to all of them. So, it's great to get the call up.
Really good to have you involved, mate. I've got loads of questions, but I'm gonna jump over to Jack first because I know he has as well. This may be chronological, it may not. So, Jack, where you starting, mate?
Well, it's interesting. There's something that I want to go into a little bit deeper on because there is something that I think. Well, you've had some amazing successes across your local business over the past few months. One of which. 2 deals combined being the same as what many's yearly salaries have been in employed roles before, which I'm sure we can dive into a little bit deeper. I'm keen, Ben, to find out, though, the transition from, so you were in an employed role before joining the Avenue Estate Agents as a self-employed agent. How was that transition? How was it changing from employed to self-employed? And what was that journey like? Because I'm sure for a lot of people that are considering it, it can be quite daunting.
Yeah, absolutely. Massively. And that was the word I was about to use, daunting, because it's something that I'd ummed and ahed about for, just before COVID, I think it was, when I first started looking into it all, kind of doing research on it, things like that. And then COVID happened and you just then get back into the swing of everything. But yeah, kind of having young family, having a house, all of that, you've got the financial pressures of everything else. But yeah, when you kind of get into it all, the big thing was kind of daunting. Well, it's got to work. If it doesn't work, you've got to go back to get a job. And you've kind of took a big risk and a gamble for it all. You kind of got no choice but to make it work. It was kind of a lot of pressures and a lot of adjustment, really. From going into an office day in, day out, seeing everyone, to then suddenly being... Yes, obviously there's the support with everyone within the Avenue and using the office, but mainly working from home by yourself, not having that day-to-day interaction with people. That's probably been, for me, a big adjustment as well, which, like James, we still do a lot together in terms of collaborative stuff up at the office and things like that as well to keep that side of it. Kind of the big adjustments just been day-to-day, kind of getting on with it by yourself, no one around, just chatting away and things like that you get normally in an office.
I think there's a couple of things that I've taken from your share there. I think coming into it with no plan B, I think it's really important that if someone's going to make a success of this world of work, then you've got to come in and give it everything. It has to be focused on plan A. Like, this has to work. I like the phraseology because I think anyone that's coming in with I'll give it a go, 6 or 7 months, and then if it doesn't work, it's not going to work and you're going to waste money.
Yeah.
It's just, having a foot in 2 camps just isn't going to work. And the second thing is about that period of time you did your research for. So my question connects probably to that. You did a lot of research, and I believe that there's a lot of people out there that are like you, that want to dive deep. They really want to understand the granular detail of how it's going to work, what the commitments might be, how it's going to impact them financially. What was it that made you finally make the decision to kind of go, do you know what? This now feels right?
I think it was more came down to the financial side of things. So when I first started looking into it, obviously, till you start looking into it, you don't know what the financial implications are, what setup costs have you got, if any, monthly running costs, all that side of it. So kind of when I first started doing all of that, it was just more of a kind of a background. And I was probably looking at a longer term at that point anyway. I wasn't necessarily thinking, because obviously, like I said, it was just before COVID. So that was probably end of 2019 that I'd started kind of exploring those bits, just looking into it in more detail. It came down to it financially was more the thing of having the funds readily available to take that time to be able to then not do or not have an income, because as we all know, kind of being in the industry, it's not something where you can make 100 sales in a week and get paid on those 100 sales if you're selling like an item or a product. Whereas if you start something like that, well, you can start to generate an income immediately. But for us, you need, like we've said, that 7-8 month window of no income at all to be able to support you for that. So that was kind of the biggest thing, was the financial side.
So you obviously remortgaged your house, and we said before we hit record, there was nothing that was off bounds. And I'm glad you said that I was okay sharing that, because I feel like that really does hit home how bold you were, how brave you were, and how committed you were to plan A working. Like, that's a big commitment with a young family. You've got another little one on the way. I totally related, by the way, when you launched, because when we launched the Avenue, I was in exactly the same position. Stanley was 10 months old. Hayley was pregnant with Margot, due in February. We launched July 1st, 2021. So when you and I spoke the very first time, I was like, this guy is going to win, because he is throwing everything on the line for this. But it also made me, like, I'm totally committed to every partner we work with, but there was something in me that connected to your story that little bit more. And I was like, I have to make sure he wins.
Yeah.
I can't do it for you, but I have to make sure he wins.
I think with everyone, there's always risk involved, isn't there?
So yeah, we.
Oh, bit of a delay on the line.
Sorry, Ben. I was just saying this. I think there's always risk involved, isn't it, when you're looking, especially when you're looking to start a business. But for you, there was a lot on the line. There was your family, which was growing at the time, a growing family, obviously remortgaging the house. For you, do you feel as though going into this, you've obviously gone 2 feet in, thrown everything into it? Do you think that that's what's been able to give you the success and the drive, and seeing your business grow as quickly as it has, because of the efforts that you put in?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we were saying at the start, there's no plan B. Part of wanting to go into the self-employed side was something that, again, over recent weeks, you guys have chatted about on the podcast, is that work-life balance, with having the young family, having that flexibility to not miss out on some of these things, which you probably do if you're working full-time in an employed role. You're probably less flexible to do these things as the little ones are growing up, and taking a bit of time out to go sports days or just school runs, whatever it may be that's important. So yeah, there was kind of, with not having that plan B, it was a massive risk, but then that reward side to it was something which, to make the family lifestyle better over the next however many years. So yeah, kind of had no choice but to go all in from it. And obviously, again, circumstances changed even since joining. There's put even more pressures on it all. So yeah, it's but it really helps you focus. That kind of, I think sometimes over years when you've been employed, you always think, oh, could I do better? Could I go elsewhere? What am I doing this for? What's the drive and things like that? But you get that daily now, kind of being self-employed. You're like, well, I've got no choice. So yeah, it definitely kind of makes more of an impact in that sense as well.
So Jack obviously alluded to the fact that you've completed your first 2 completions combined financially were the equivalent of most people's annual salary, basic salary on the high street.
Yeah.
My question there is obviously, I was looking back at the dates before we jumped on the call. So we did your onboarding week mid-Feb, and you went live, I think it was the 19th of Feb. So everything was set up, all the marketing went live. It's like, right, the lights are on, Ben Dunn, Mickle over, Little over, and surroundings is alive. How long was it between that moment and completing on your first deal? Was it about 6 months?
Yeah, so August was the first.
Yeah, so almost exactly 6 months.
Yeah. So end of August.
I've got down.
Yeah.
That's the first completion.
So this question, this is obviously about the Elite Agent Masterclass, but like I said in the introduction, this is very much about those people that are listening in, considering going on the journey, what the highs, what the lows are, you know, the things that people are prepared to put on the line. And it's part of what tells me if someone's going to be elite or not, is they're prepared to put everything on the line because they're going to give the kitchen sink and all. So all this risk, refinance the house, lots of pressure, family's growing. How were you feeling the first few weeks?
Scared. Yeah, I think that element of self-doubt creeps in as well. Is it right? kind of, can you do it? I think kind of human nature is to have that there. But I think I was quite fortunate in the sense of a couple of early listings as well, which was through my network, just people who I knew, people, friends of family, recommendation. Obviously still had to go out and win the business. But yeah, kind of getting those first few listings on the board just kind of helped me relax a bit, in a sense of that kind of self-doubt, going out that mind slightly. Not obviously relax in the sense of, oh, I'll put my feet up now, I've got a few listings already, only a few weeks and it's easy. But yeah, those first few weeks, yeah, I think you kind of, again, it's that transition to self-employed, of going in a busy office environment, knowing your daily, weekly, monthly tasks every day, you just go in and crack in. On this side of it, that first week after I've had the onboarding week, it's then like, right, there we go, I've got nothing to do, like no properties, no one to call, where do I start?
Yeah, let's go be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big shift in everything, mindset, but then, like you say, productivity and even just job tasks in general. Everything's then completely different. So yeah, those first few weeks, very daunting. But yeah, kind of settled in.
With those first few weeks, how did you organise your time? Because I think going from an employed role where you're in the office, you've got set hours that you work in, you know, when you're in the office, when your appointments are, everything's kind of planned out, or you've got a structure to your day, to going into actually having to create your own structure, especially like you said, you haven't got any leads, or you haven't got any properties that you're working with right now. So how did you organise and structure your days day to day to make sure that you were really productive and make sure you're going out there still keeping yourself busy?
Yeah, I mean, my kind of personality trait anyway is to be quite organised and structured to a degree anyway. So it was more just kind of, I'm very much like handwritten list, cross things off, things like that. So I think even towards the end of the onboarding week, start to get a few ideas of different things to do. So it was more just in a morning, most of the week, everyone kind of goes out of the house anyway. So with them having my office here at home, house is empty, I can then just kind of crack on with it. But it was more just kind of doing things that I'd done previously anyway, in terms of business generation, door knocking, different plans about kind of lead gen on the social media aspect as well, which again, conversations we've had over time, hasn't always been my strongest point. But yeah, it's just kind of trying to adjust to that and find the new norm that works well. And it did take a few weeks. There'd be times where kind of I'd write a list in the morning, and come the end of the day, you're like, what has happened today? But yeah,
where's the day gone? This is one of the reasons why when I said to Jack the other day, like, let's get Ben Dunn on, I knew you'd be really open and real and raw about it, because like it takes a bold person to kind of go, do you know what, I might have wasted a bit of time initially, and like I was looking at my list and going, what have I done? But the thing I really rate and respect about you is you kind of don't then make excuses. It's just a case of, look, yeah, actually, do you know what, I probably dropped the ball a little bit that day, but I'm not gonna repeat that 2 days on the spin. Or you and I would have a call, or you might speak to Jack or whatever, and you'll go, right, yeah, actually I've got something there. And the thing I love about doing sessions with you is that it's like, we'll have a conversation, and then 48 hours later, you've implemented, it's done. It's like, right, on to the next thing. What can we build next? And I love that. So I want to go back a step. We've talked about the early stages of launching as a self-employed agent. I don't want this to make it, I don't want it to be weighted towards, why did you join the avenue? But there is a point to me asking the question of why the avenue, because I think with the growth of the self-employed space, a lot of agents that are looking to transition could potentially look at self-employed brokerages in the same way that homeowners can start to look at estate agents. And so rather than looking at them based on the value they get back, they potentially look at who's the cheapest entry to market, i.e. who's the cheapest fee and who's going to give you the highest val, right? So you, and I don't need to name names, but I remember you telling me you had explored a few options before we spoke.
Yeah.
So rather than it being a sales pitch for the avenue, it's more understanding what was the decision-making process for you and why the avenue.
Yeah, I think when I was exploring the options, there was 3 or 4, including obviously you guys that I spoke to, all ranging, like you say, in terms of fee structures, setup costs, all of that. But I was then looking at it more, knowing how I am, and like I said to you before, that adjustment of being in an office day to day to then being alone. Some of them that I looked at, I just didn't feel like there was very much like with you guys, where you've got that team element. So somewhere, obviously, with the Avenue having the postcodes, not competing kind of against other agents within the same brand, which you do have with kind of other self-employed models. For me, it was more kind of collaborating. Still, yes, you're self-employed, but you are still within a team, and having that support network and that team around everyone. Yes, you don't have that kind of day-to-day office life, but there's people now, even within the Avenue, where I've got that closer relationship with, where I do have conversations a couple of times a week, or I can pick up the phone and speak to either of you guys or any of the other agents. So yeah, it was more that kind of togetherness as part of it as well, because I knew kind of when looking at the different models that I probably wouldn't fit well in a model where you are just solely by yourself. They kind of set you up with the basics, and it's you go do what you want to do it your own way, however works best for you, you do it. I think for me, having that structure that you guys put in place, that agents follow, but then also having the team aspect to it as well, that was just something that resonated with me, and I felt that was actually the most suitable fit for me.
Cool. And it wasn't a sales pitch. Thank you. Because the point of team is to give value, so it's more people understanding are looking at it, whether it's the Avenue or not. To me, it's by the by. Like, we were looking at something yesterday, and it's very much the attitude within the Avenue that it's like 99% need not apply. Like, do you know what I mean? We're not about the masses, so I'm quite comfortable with the idea that you're not pitching us. It's very much to help those listening in think about what they should be looking for. And you said about your personality profile being a part of something bigger than yourself for you is important, and equally then having a network that you can collaborate with and lean on and chew ideas over with and all that sort of stuff then is far more valuable to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like I say, there will be other models out there that work better for other people, like say personality traits and things like that. But for me, yes, like we said at the start, I think it's early next year where it's 10 years in the industry. So again, coming up to 10 years in the industry, but I still wanted that kind of support, or kind of more of a support network there, that team behind it, as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of that was kind of one of the biggest things for me, was just having that extra.
I think you hit the nail on the head with, there's a lot of different brokerages out there, and not everyone is the right fit for each brokerage. There's going to be different models that are more suitable for other individuals. And I think you've alluded to it. It's going out there, doing your research and making sure that you pick a business that is the right fit for you and you can see yourself being there long term, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, coming on to, I suppose, moving back into your local business and how that's been going and performing over recent months, what would you say is one of the most effective, or what have you found to have been real effective lead generational strategies that have worked really well for you to start getting yourself some opportunities and starting to grow your business and speak to a lot of homeowners or people that are looking at moving?
Yeah, I think at the very start was more door knocking, which I know is a bit of a not controversial, but some people love it, some people hate it, some people think you should do it, some people think you shouldn't. But yeah, for me, it was something which I have done in the past, so I had a bit of experience with it. With then discussing it with you guys, I had kind of a slightly different approach to it, to kind of maybe what I'd done previously, which I then actually found worked well. But that in the early days kind of worked well for me in a sense of getting a few properties on the market to then show off the marketing that we do on homes, so that when I'm then sitting then in living rooms with other people, I've then at least got properties that I can show off, which, yeah, it's great when you've got other agents under the Avenue and you can show off other homes that they've got, but then when it's your own stuff, I think it has that bit more empowerment. I'd say, so that was kind of probably, I'd say, the first 2 to 3 months that worked really well. But then from then on, a lot of it has been social media, kind of recommendations in local groups, various different posts in groups. But yeah, kind of social media has been a big one for me, which again, like I say, I'm still not any sort of consistently posting. There's a big improvement for me to make on that social media side of things anyway. But yeah, that's something which more recently I've seen an improvement with.
I love that as well, the fact that you want to keep growing and improving, and improving what you're doing. Coming back to the door knocking strategies, what advice would you give to anyone that is nervous around going out there and knocking their first door, or going out there and door knocking in general?
Just going out with a mindset of trying to help that person. And I mean, I've had some awful experiences in the past with it, which you take to heart, and it's just learn just not to take it to heart. Ultimately, I had the mindset of it of, if they turn around and say, look, don't know what you're doing here, shut the door in my face, I'm happy with what I'm doing, don't know why you're doing it, I turn around and then I think, well, look, that's not a person that I want to work with. That's not the right client for me. I went with a strategy of, look, how are you getting on? Are you looking to move locally? I'm recently set up my business, trying to build kind of my contact base in the area. If you're looking to buy locally, it'd be good to get some details of what you are looking for, so I can then keep you in the loop of anything else. And I think that initial kind of conversation being trying to help them kind of almost kind of breaks that barrier down. And it also gave me a different light of when people door knocked on my house, not agents, but like just through other. So I had a window cleaner the other day, opened the door, and there's been the odd time where I've shut the door and I've been a bit harsh on him. Like, how would I feel if that was me? But I think it's kind of how you approach it to each person. I think if you try and help them before you ask them for anything, someone's going to be a lot more kind of respective of it, and probably open more to a conversation.
It's interesting, isn't it, where you say how you react to people knocking on your door. I'm the same as you now. Like, if someone knocks on the door, the first thing that goes through my head is like, do you know what, fair play to you? You're getting out there. I had it the other day, a neighbour a few doors down, they're having their roof replaced on their house. And one of the lads, only a young lad, came round. He's like, just wanted to knock on, we're doing your neighbour's roof, just wondered whether or not it might be something that you're considering doing. And the first thing I said was, fair play to you. That's literally, I was like, fair play. Like, he doesn't even own the business. He works for the guy. And he's like, just wanted to pop by. We're obviously just down the way anyway. And I really rate it. I really respect it, because I'm like, do you know, there are so few people that will go out of their own way and step outside their comfort zones. Because it must have been like a bit of a thing for him where he's like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Sod it, fortune favours the brave. Can't hurt to ask the question. My neighbour's having it done. We're not. Probably should. But the point being is that if they hadn't knocked on, that conversation wouldn't have started and they wouldn't be building their business. I think credit to it. For those people that are the haters, cool, that's fine. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but it does work.
Yeah.
On that note, coming up to 10 years in the industry, all of it traditional based before now.
Yeah.
How am I wanting to position this question? Would you say that you've learned a lot? Because you've obviously been partnered with the Avenue now for 9 months. So would you say in that 9-month period, you've learned a lot? You've learned more than you had in the previous 9 years, less than, you've had to pivot about yourself, bearing in mind we did the disc profile and everything else. So have you learned anything about yourself? Have you learned anything more about estate agency and how to do things in a certain way? And by the way, it's not a loaded question. If you say no, cool. And equally then about building and growing a business. Where are your learns?
Just saying no, Ben. Just
No.
just for the fun of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing. No, it's across the board really. So learned a lot about myself.
What have you learned about yourself, Ben?
Oh, now you're asking me. Just probably more resilient than what I thought I was. And yeah, kind of, I've always been someone who's probably had a lot of self-doubt, and I've then actually thought, you know what, you probably do better than what you give yourself kind of credit for at times and things like that. So just more kind of recognition on that side of it. But yeah, kind of on that side about myself is kind of just being more resilient to things. Within the industry, yes, there's been a fair amount I've learned since being with the Avenue. just in a sense of, I'd probably say more on the people side of things, and kind of it is more about the people. Yes, it's a property transaction, but and I've always kind of had it on that personal side of things and kind of getting to know people, the families behind it, all of that. But kind of then trying to relay that within the valuation of how we market it to kind of it just being, look, here's what your property is worth. This is what we do, X, Y, Z. Here's our fee. It's kind of more kind of how you approach that kind of appraisal conversation, the marketing behind it, why you do certain things, not just being saying, look, this is what we do. It's kind of going into why, different strategies, how you implement things differently as well. So there's been a lot kind of more, which I'd say is more kind of the language side of things as well, and the psychology side of things, kind of when you're discussing various bits as well. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot learned kind of across the board on that, all of that really. I can't remember what the part was.
Do you think on that as well, the fact that you've been able to, I suppose, connect with those clients, understand them more, understand their backgrounds, what they're looking to do. Do you think that's helped because of the volume? Because look, you're an amazing agent, and looking at the fees that you've been able to charge and secure with some of the listings we mentioned earlier, 2 of those listings were the equivalent to a basic salary on the high street. So do you think you've been able to do that? Because I mean, I know one of those listings as well was on with another agent and struggling to sell before. So a massive result for the client as well.
Both of them were. Both of them.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
Sorry, I do apologise. Both of them being on with other agents. So no, you've obviously helped those clients as well get them those results. But do you think you've been able to do that because of the, I suppose, lower volume compared to what you're used to working with the high street? Has that had an impact?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's then been able to kind of really get into the nitty-gritty of those people's circumstances, why they're moving, reasons behind it all, but then be able to give them that kind of more personal service to things as well, and kind of really just kind of sit down and be like, look, this is the way forward, essentially. Especially with one of them, I remember kind of even after we had the marketing shoot, when I got everything back, I went over and sat down with her, and she wanted to be kind of involved in it all a bit. And kind of we sat down there, me and Michelle, and she was going through all the photos. And yeah,
is that the one that I initially?
Yeah, the one where we went together. Yeah. Yeah, when we got all the photos and everything back from the photographer, just kind of went back out, sat in the living room with her, and we kind of went through all the photos and kind of, which you wouldn't do that with everyone, but with her. Yeah, it was one where kind of, I think because of past experience as well, I think she just wanted that bit more kind of handheld involvement. And I think even though she had been on the market for just over a year in the end with the previous agent, she still felt kind of quite daunted going back on the market and kind of starting it afresh. So yeah, kind of, it definitely allows you kind of not having the volume that you're used to having, being able to actually then provide more of that service. But then I think it's also seeing the value in yourself. That's been another thing I'd say that's kind of learned over the last kind of 8-9 months is, kind of seeing the real value in yourself. And I was saying to you a few weeks ago, James, that now I'm at a point where there have been times, especially towards the start of the business, where you kind of more like thinking, what's the fees here? What are we going to do? Like, I don't want to lose it. Where do I go in? Whereas I'm now got comfortable at a point of, if they say they've gone elsewhere and it's purely based on, or someone comes and say, what's your fees? I'm comfortable with giving them the fee. And if they say, look, that's far too high and they're not willing to listen or anything like that, I'll say, that's fine. I'm willing to now kind of walk away from stuff if it's not going to be the right fit for me and the brand. So yeah, that's kind of another thing in a sense of not dealing on that high volume side of things, where you can then kind of truly value what you do, why you do it, and what that value is for a customer as well.
What a transformation in mindset, because I think one of the big conversations, so this episode is being recorded at the first week of November, probably will go out second week, maybe third week of November. So we're in the process of bringing 2 new agents in this week into the business. And it's interesting, every single onboard that I take part in, the fee conversation comes up, and quite a lengthy conversation. Do the agents that you have, and you really secure those fees? Are customers really prepared to pay upfront marketing fees and a percentage that's higher than the norm? Is that really true? And I'm like, every time I have to open up Lifecycle, show them the fees in the system, and which is cool because it is unbelievable. It's a little bit like sharing some of the data that gets shared on, say, LinkedIn or whatever, or, you know, when we're talking to prospective partners around, you know, the average income of someone, or what the lower level is and what the extreme higher level is, and all this sort of stuff. It's like they feel like monopoly numbers. But you are testament to that, right? You are working in the same marketplace that you were in when you were on the high street. So you haven't moved marketplaces, but have your fees risen?
Yeah.
Did you used to charge an upfront marketing fee?
No.
Do you now?
Yeah.
What's changed?
Mindset to it. But I think also you then start to get the clients who understand the value in it. And I think that's the key thing. It's been more kind of learning, demonstrating value to people. And people are kind of, I mean, when you say about the fees, obviously I offer the 2 sets of fees. They've got an option where they don't have to pay up front, but it's purely down to each seller on their own terms of which way they want to go. But yeah, I think kind of demonstrating the value to them, and that's kind of then also attracted the kind of properties that you then want to be working alongside as well, and the clients as well, because they see the value in what you're doing and why you're charging those fees and the output they get. I mean, I was sat in the kitchen with someone earlier, and I've got one on the market around the corner. And he's said, look, I had another agent out earlier. We're looking at moving earlier in the year, seeing what you've done with the one around the corner. And it's just completely above and beyond what some of the traditional ones do. And we don't want to kind of go down that route now. And yeah, that's something where, again, as soon as someone's coming to you because they've seen your marketing on others, when you kind of going into that deeper, having more of a chat with them about why you're doing what you can do, and kind of getting them envisioning how you can put that onto their home. Yeah, absolutely. As long as you can demonstrate that value, yeah, it's been a great turnaround.
How exciting though, and how nice is that feeling when you get clients where they're like, they may as well be saying, how do I sell myself to you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where that client's like, I've seen what you've done. I see how good it is. That's what we want. That feeling of satisfaction where it's like, do you know, all of the hard work I've done over the last 9 months to build to this point, all the heavy lifting, all of the commitment, all of the challenges I would have had where I was like, am I doing the right thing? Am I even good enough? Can I make this work in the early days? Then it transitions from that mindset into, actually, maybe I am a bit good at this. And maybe if I just follow the process, it does work. And then it's like, then you're sitting in kitchens and living rooms with people where they're going, seeing what you've done, I absolutely love it. And that's what we want. We don't want that traditional mainstream stack them high, sell them cheap mentality. We want what you do. That's a nice feeling, right?
Yeah, we want that positive cost us.
Yeah, absolutely. But then they also take on board everything else that you're then saying. If you're then saying, well, look, really, if you want my advice, change in X, Y, Z, or move some of these when we do the shoot, move all this out the way and all of that, they're the people who then actually listen to what kind of how's best to do it, because they've seen what you've done on another property. It's like, how do I have my house looking like that? So then when you're saying, look, I think you need to do X, Y, Z before, yeah, they're then like, great, that's fine, we'll get that done. And yeah, so yeah, it's such a great feeling when you sat there and they're saying, oh yeah, I've seen what you've done on this other one, and we had someone else 6 months ago coming out, but then we had to delay things and whatever. But yeah, we've now kind of done a U-turn on that decision, and yeah, we want to work with you. It's a great feeling.
Love that.
We've seen how hard you've worked on some of those listings, and the investment into the marketing, the quality of what you produce, and getting the property ready and completely changing it from what it looked like when it was on the market with other agents. Then working really hard to generate leads and opportunities and have a strategy behind the appointments and how those are conducted. And I know there's a couple where you've got some really strong offers agreed on those as well, significantly higher than what the sellers were expecting. So I'm guessing you've now built some case studies, which I'm sure those can help you win over the business. But in the early stages, those first couple of listings, what was it that helped you get those over the line? What was it that helped you deliver that value? What was the difference in making sure you could secure that business for those first few listings?
Those first few listings, they were more ones where it was kind of, I already had a bit of a relationship with the people. So whether it be Kenzie Road, for example, or then a couple of properties, kind of apartments that I've been working on, where they're kind of either family friends or recommendation from a family friend, where it was kind of using them to kind of, even though, yes, they're kind of 1 or 2 bed apartments, still going to town on the marketing, to then be able to use that to then show what you could then do on other houses as well. But yeah, like you say, there's that investment side to it initially. And I think I was chatting to James a couple of months ago about it, in a sense that kind of the business, from what I projected being at this point, I'm delighted it's kind of skyrocketed from where I thought it would be. But then there has been that point of the financial side of things where, yeah, I've put more properties on the market than I expected to have done by this point, but then I've shelled out a lot more marketing shoots than I expected to have done. So it's always been that cash flow element side as well, and trying to juggle all of that, which is
lesson in the curse.
Yeah, absolutely so. But yeah, I think kind of getting those first few case studies to then be able to show off to people, and that's where, again, where social media has massively come into it with recommendations and things like that, is the amount of even buyers that I've been speaking to when they've kind of come and look at a house and they just say, wow, it's kind of what you've done on the marketing is completely above and beyond what we've seen with any other properties, or when we're doing the viewings and I'm there chatting to them and kind of they're asking you about things and you're just talking to them about it. They just, some buyers can't even believe that that's what we're doing compared to, like you say, your high street agents, and the difference it does.
I feel like a broken record saying this at the moment, but it's just, I just so wholeheartedly believe it. And it's the phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So the perception you create is everybody else's reality. So when you're presenting properties with such beautiful marketing, with such attention to detail, with cinematic presenter-led videos that are like 5-6 minutes in length, when you're doing the social media ad campaigns, when you're doing all of these things, the perception that gives to the public is that these guys do something very different. And so that really is then their interpretation. I genuinely feel like every appointment I go to, if they've consumed any of our content on any platform, I'm going into that appointment safe in the knowledge that no one else does it the way we do it. And so I already have, and this is about a confidence thing, I already have a confidence that I'm probably a little bit ahead of the others, because their interpretation is these guys are a bit different. All I've then got to do is go in and essentially fill in the gaps around the strategic approach we take. Because you can't be all, what is it, all skirt and no knickers is the phrase, you know, forgive anyone listening in that but you can't like, and what that, you know, for those, you know, that aren't probably as old as me and don't understand the phrase, that's very much about looking fantastic on the outside. The marketing looks absolutely bells and whistles, but there's actually no substance underneath the surface. It's just a very flouncy looking marketing piece. So then to be able to go in and deliver on the strategy that we deliver, the negotiation process that we go through with clients, then all of a sudden it's like, I'm already ahead. Now it's like, okay, cool. This is going nowhere but on the market with us. And so I do genuinely believe in that phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you show up and your marketing is so on point, people are going to then benchmark you. I also think that then influences fees, because people look at it and go, these guys aren't going to be cheap. So if they're calling you out and they're already in a headspace where they know you're not going to be cheap, then the fee then becomes less of an issue as well. It's like a win-win-win, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Here's my question. I've got a couple of more questions for you. I'm sorry, Jack. I feel like I've hijacked a little bit, but like Ben's journey is like a really exciting one because of the backstory, because of the risks you've taken and the young family piece. And we're in end of 2024. The year is done from a business point of view. So what we exchange and complete on now, you know, what we sell now is going to be next year, etc. What do you envisage 2025 looking like for you and your business?
The way it's going, just working on kind of like we were discussing the other week, just kind of more focusing on the nicer, higher end, like the properties that kind of go in keeping with the marketing that we do. But even then to a point of doubling down more on the social media side, which, like I said, I've touched on before. At the minute, it's not my strong point. Getting more consistent with that side of it, but I'm looking at it in a sense of excitement in terms of where my business can go to next year and what that kind of earning potential could be, compared to kind of what it has been this year and previous years as well. And yeah, there's different things there where I'm just excited by it all, really. Yeah, kind of the possibilities, and yeah, kind of like you say, expanding young family next year as well. So there's going to be challenges on that side to it. But yeah, it's then kind of going alongside the business and growing that as well. Yeah, kind of it's exciting to kind of where that can go to.
Nice. I've got one final question. I don't know if Jack's got any. I've got one final one. If someone was to contact you right now that was planning on becoming a self-employed estate agent, and you were to give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Consistency. Across the board, really, whether that be with kind of plans that you've got in terms of like lead gen strategies or routine, just across the board, on all the different aspects within the business. I think you've just got to be consistent, because if you're not consistent, you could easily try doing something but not do enough of it consistently enough to get the proper results. So I think it's kind of consistency and measuring what you do to kind of really look at what does work well and what doesn't. And again, that's something which has kind of come from conversations we've had with kind of measuring the output of how many doors have you knocked, or how many of the letters have been sent, and kind of what the ongoing is from the results from each of them. But I think you've got to do it consistently. And like I say, that's whether it be a morning routine, different lead gen strategies. If you're not consistent with it, I don't think it's something which you can't just kind of go up and down with everything, because yeah, it just won't work, because you've got the highs and lows of the business as it is, let alone I think if you've got consistency to it over time, it will then kind of work out. But yeah, if you just keep kind of chasing the highs and lows on that, it's just, I don't think it's going to work.
Really like the measuring piece, and I suppose completely right. We've got to do things enough times to be able to have something to measure, haven't you? So as long as you can do consistently for a long period of time, then review it, then measure, then see where you can adapt and change. Matt, I think this has been a great episode. There's so much that we've gone through that I think has been absolute gold. I suppose the mindset piece, which I think has been really helped by the strategies and the frameworks that you've been able to put in place, and the processes that you've built, and the structure that you've built within your business. I love the fact that you keep mentioning social media and wanting to do more with it. I love what you're doing on social media. So the fact that you want to keep growing and expanding on that is amazing, and continuing to build your personal brand. I think the confidence that you've got, I can just tell the way that you speak and the way that you talk about your interaction with clients, the confidence that you got is incredible. And one of the things I think is really important for people to remember, is something you mentioned earlier, is utilizing your network, because those first few listings sounded like they came from the network around you. But the big thing, I think, is you've put yourself under immense pressure on a number of occasions. One, launching the business, but also invested into the market to make sure you have to get those listings sold, because you've invested so heavily into it. So would you agree that putting yourself under pressure is going to help you have more success within your business? And do you think that pressure has really helped you drive yourself on and give you that determination to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people that know me, I'm quite a level person. So if I get annoyed by something, I don't like lose my head and lose it. But I'm always kind of quite calm anyway. So I think having that pressure kind of makes you need to kind of consistently do these things, especially with how I am, because yeah, without that pressure, I'd kind of not be too laid back, but you could fall into that trap quite easily if you then don't have that pressure to it. So yeah, I'd massively say that the pressure's been the big thing for me. And it's then how you kind of, as things progress and build, it's how you keep that pressure there kind of to then want to push it forward. Because again, as you move on to the next step of things where you maybe take the financial pressure away of kind of the day-to-day, but it's then how do you build on top and kind of keep progressing forward. And yeah, extra pressures will come, because if things kind of keep being successful and building, you'll probably add to kind of that outgoing side of things as well. So yeah, you're going to want having that earning potential to kind of then enjoy it at the same time.
The pressure makes diamonds. I think in your case, Ben, the pressure has built you a healthy soul pipeline.
Absolutely.
Love that. I must admit, yeah, the pressure definitely lit a fire under you, Ben. That's for damn sure. Jack, I think Jack's synopsis before he asked the question was like so perfect for this episode. Ben, you've shared so much value. It's been wicked. If anybody wants to connect with you online on social media, see some of the amazing stuff that you're doing, even though you want to do more, how can they connect with you?
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, kind of across social media channels. Feel free if someone then wanted to kind of message me or kind of get in touch more about the self-employed model. All my contact details then across social media platforms. So if they wanted to text, call me, email, anything like that, yeah, anyone feel free to kind of follow me on socials or then kind of get in touch if they wanted to kind of discuss anything on the self-employed model side of things.
Is it, if it's Instagram and Facebook, is it at Ben Dunn the Avenue?
Yeah, Instagram, I think Ben Dunn _ the Avenue, and yeah, I think Facebook's the same. So yeah, at Ben Dunn the Avenue.
Thanks ever so much for joining us, mate. It's been absolutely wicked.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you, mate.